Well, welcome back to Last Call. Jake Kiefer, Nathaniel Finch, as always. Nathaniel, tell us a little bit about the Colts.
I don't even know what to say anymore. This Colts team, they hang the fruit out. They make you think that they can be something this year. They get on a little bit of a win streak. They beat the Jaguars last week. Things look good. And then they go into Tennessee, right, where if they win, they're number one in the division. They're looking good. They've got a chance to control the AFC South. That did not happen. Went down to Tennessee. The final score there was 19-10, and it was just a tough game to watch. You see there, number 2. Starter no more. He's been benched. Sam Ehlinger is going to start the rest of the season. Did end up getting a little banged up, but they were going to make the change anyway because he is now leading the league in interceptions with 9. But we see Paris Campbell. He had a great day. He was able to get the first touchdown and only touchdown on the board for the Colts. That score was 17-3 at the time. And then it was just a field goal fest for the rest of the game here in the fourth quarter. And it was the Titans who were able to put up more three-point plays than the Colts were and ended up winning that one 19-10. But it was a tough showing for Colts fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, really it was all about the Titans defense. Andrew Adams scored the only Titans touchdown on an interception. I was a big fan of him in the game, 10 total tackles, 6 solo. But Matt Ryan, man, it's just a tough performance every time out for him. He now leads the NFL in interceptions with 9.
And that's probably going to be the last interception he throws all year if Sam Ehlinger can play halfway respective. You see Derrick Henry rips up the middle of the field. He had a great game, as he always does, especially against Colts. 30 carries, 128 rushing yards, and it was just able to take the air out of the football. We see here another of these field goals. A lot of long field goals, too, as well. We saw Chase McLaughlin hit a 50-plus yarder. That was a 50 or a 48-yarder there from Randy Bullock, and it's just a 19-10 score. It's because a lot of field goals here, not a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, though, I mean, he just isn't the same. I don't know what is different besides the offensive line, but he just hasn't really been able to get it going the past few games.
Well, let me tell you, is 6 yards a carry a pretty good number?
It's great.
I'd say 6 yards a carry is pretty good, but they only gave him 10 carries. You have to feed Jonathan Taylor, and, I mean, Derrick Henry didn't have the biggest yards per carry clip, right? He had 30 carries for only 128 yards, which in the end gets you what you need, but it's because they kept giving him the rock over and over and over. He had 3 times the amount of carries that Jonathan Taylor did, and Taylor only had a little less than half the yards. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, just keep feeding your guy, especially if he's putting up 6 a carry. I don't understand the disconnect here. Why give it to Matt Ryan, who leads the league in interceptions? We had a couple fumbles. You saw one from Michael Pittman earlier on that highlight reel, but it's just, I mean, you can't call it a highlight reel, but from that B-roll. But for the Colts, I just don't understand why you don't hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor every second play, if not more.
Yeah, Nathaniel, you said it. Sam Ehlinger is now the starter going forward. I have a feeling that this move makes or breaks Frank Reich's time in Indy. We'll see, depending on how Sam Ehlinger performs. I personally think he'll probably do a decent job.
He looked really good in the preseason, so there's kind of the hope for Indianapolis. And for Frank Reich, if you stuck with Matt Ryan and he just stunk it up the way he has been the rest of the year, you're not going to make it to the end of the year. So maybe now with the young guy, he's got a chance to buy him a little bit of extra time. But you got to think, if this offense doesn't figure anything out, he's not going to make it to the end of the season.
Yeah, well, looking forward to seeing how that plans out for the Colts.
Feed Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
all right, let's move on.
It's a soundbite right there. Well, moving on, my Ravens, man, they held off the Browns in Cleveland. Not in Cleveland, despite Cleveland's comeback. Cleveland's two-headed monster of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, though, they're fun to watch. Nick Chubb found the end zone, 91 yards. Kareem Hunt, 1 touchdown on 5 carries for 4 yards. Of course, he didn't get much of the workload, but he's that goal line guy that they're going to go after.
Yeah, and I mean, with Cleveland, you think until you get your quarterback back week 11, they're just going to continue to run the ball over and over. Typically it works, and it gets you in these close games, but you're not going to win a game when you kick it like that. You see it was blocked. Cade York not able to get it through the uprights, and that kind of led to the end of this game. But who would have thought going into it that the Ravens would only win by 3 in such a close game? The spread was a lot more. It just seemed like it was the Ravens' game, the way the Browns have kind of played this year. But they kept it close, especially at M&T Bank Stadium. It was a pretty impressive game for Cleveland, but ultimately you got to hit that field goal.
Well, in the Browns, they effectively took Mark Andrews out of the game. Mark Andrews had no catches on 2 targets. I mean, that was the game plan going in for the Browns. It's probably going to be every team's game plan against the Ravens from now on. But, they rode the Gus bus all the way to the win. Gus Edwards, stepped in for the injured J.K. Dobbins, 16 carries, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. So.
And when you can effectively neutralize Mark Andrews, of course he was a little banged up going into the game, so it's not like he was going to be at his best anyway. But their top 2 receivers, 2 catches for 42 yards, 4 catches for 42 yards. That was from Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman, respectively. Not big days from your outside receivers. And it's always going to happen like that. You trade away Marquise Brown, your best receiver, and they just don't have much more talent outside of the tight end position. So, of course, if you can find a way to neutralize him, it's going to be a long day. And, of course, if you can keep Lamar Jackson from running all over you, which they did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find it important to note that Indiana native and former Purdue star David Bell got a catch for 7 yards in that game. So congratulations to the former Boiler.
Hey, a catch for 7 yards, we'll throw it in every show. If David Bell's doing good, we'll take
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Well, moving on around the league, the Commanders topped the Packers without Carson Wentz. I mean, that was excellent.
You lose your starting quarterback, you probably get better. Let's take a look at these highlights from Taylor Heineke coming in here for the Commanders. And, I mean, who do you think is going to win, Heineke or Aaron freaking Rodgers? And it ended up being Heineke. Came back from a 14-0 deficit early, and the Packers just not able to get anything going after that. What a catch here, as you see, stay in the front corner of the end zone. But it was just a putrid day on offense.
Yeah, it was a tough performance, but guess who is back, baby? Scary Terry, another Indiana native. Terry McLaurin, 5 receptions, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. And your boy B-Rob, Brian Robinson, man, 5 weeks after, or coming back after an injury, he led the backfield in touches as expected. I mean, 20 carries, 73 yards, long of 24. Couldn't quite find the end zone, but I think he had an excellent day.
Wasn't just a normal injury, of course, and we talked about it with the last show. Shot in the leg twice, come back, and he's now the lead tailback for this team, and he's playing great football. Can't say the same for most of the Packers, whether it be on offense or defense. They're just struggling. They're now on a 3-game skid, and things are just not looking good. You had the game against the Giants in London where they lost, and they said, all right, we're okay now, but if we lose to the Jets, then we're going to have a problem. Next week, lose to the Jets. Blown out by the Jets, you could say, a couple scores. But then you come to this game and like, all right, get right game. We're playing a backup quarterback. We can beat the Commanders, who aren't. They haven't played too well this year. Maybe it's a Carson Wentz thing. Maybe it's this or that. But it just seems like they had a chance to come in and kind of just dominate this game, right, and get back on track. Rodgers didn't look good. Tom Brady and the Bucs didn't look good. Things just aren't looking good for these top NFC teams.
Yeah. Moving on. 30-point second half gave the Chiefs the win over the 49ers. That was a crazy game. Christian McCaffrey's first game as a 49er. I mean, he only had 8 carries for 38 yards, but I'd say that's because the game script kind of forced the 49ers' hands there.
Yeah, and of course, look at this, Christian McCaffrey wearing number 23. We knew he wasn't going to come in and get a ton of run, right, because he just came to the team, was traded Thursday night, so Friday was his first practice, so he wasn't going to get the 20, 25 carry workload that he's used to. We knew it would just be kind of a short kind of run for him, but he looked pretty good and kind of gives this Niners team some hope. You would have liked to have him before this week started so they could have him against the Chiefs, but, I mean, in the limited work he got, it looked pretty good. The Chiefs ended up getting a big win. Chiefs are real. I think the 49ers are pretty legit too, but maybe just not this week because the Kansas City Chiefs are that good.
Well, once Christian McCaffrey gets going in the offense, I think they'll be pretty good.
Oh, and I bet you Kyle Shanahan has not slept a wink thinking about what he's going to do with McCaffrey in this offense.
Yeah. Well, when we come back, we're going to preview the Monday Night Football game. We got Pats Bears tonight.